The flames were all around. I was inside, and I was all right, but it was getting plenty warm.
I had about 40% of my body burnt, and most of it on the left side.
I know the way I am, and I know the way I'm going to be, and it's not my fault. It's the way my life is.
Tonight on Inquiry, Beneath the Scars. 10 years ago, Susan Kilfillen was featured in a CBC documentary on children and burns. Tonight, we take Susan back to the hospital where she spent a good part of her life after a tragic house fire that happened when she was just 3 years old.
Thinking back of, some of the pain that I went through and some of the moments that I was alone. I really don't remember all that much, but just little things come to mind.
He's gonna fix my eyebrows, and he's gonna fix my little finger, and he's gonna fix my arm.
Yep. Face, left finger, right arm, in that order.
At the age of 10, Susan was having her 25th skin graft.
Susan was rather an unusual child. She is one of the largest burns that we've ever had survive at the Children's Hospital. She was a 75% full-thickness burn and was in the hospital for 356 days. She is an unusual child. She has gone through more pain and suffering, more skin grafting and surgical procedures than any child that I really know of. And yet she has come through, still friends with us, and a personality that is a pleasure to have around.
Can you remember how you got burned?
No, I don't remember nothing.
Do you ever talk to anyone and ask them about what caused your burn?
Yeah, but I guess they didn't tell me.
So you don't know?
No.
Were you frightened of hospitals at first?
No.
Why do you think you've never been frightened?
I guess I was brought up here most of the time.
The immediate problem this morning was to make sure that she can close her eyelids in sleep, and as you can see now, she's not really closing her eyelids at the present time. We feel that we will carry on doing procedures as long as each procedure we do makes the child more satisfied with their appearance.
And is there anything that you can't do because of your burns?
Not really. When I really try, I can do them. And if I don't try, I can't do them.
Oh, this room really has a lot of memories for me because when I was first burned, I was in this room when I had patches on my eyes for quite a while. And when they took the patches off my eyes, I thought I was going to be blind, but when I opened my eyes, I could see light coming from that window, and it was really wonderful that I could see light again.
Hi, Susan. How you doing?
Not too bad. I thought I'd come back and visit you all.
Hi,
Hi, how are you doing?
How long has you been here?
It's about, well, it was when I was 16 was the last time, yeah.
We spoiled you rotten here. Let's
Yeah,
put it
I
that way.
Certainly did. Remember the time the doctor gave you Traceco?
Yes,
That you could
running
make
around
it
all over the
move.
place.
I can
You could make
imagine
it move and you made us chase you. We went looking for you. We were on that Traceco all over.
But I remember the day you left, too. It was a year to the day you came in that you left here.
I was in that room right over there.
Yeah, a year to the day that you came in this hospital that you left here.
Yeah. I remember one time I was going in a grocery store and the lady was looking at me and I was looking at her trying to figure out what was wrong. I think I really scared her because she almost fell over a bag of flour. So, now I feel sorry for her, but yet I have to stop and laugh about it. To get over it, you have to have humor. because it can really bother you. I know it has really bothered me some over the years. Because, you know, when I look at myself, not looking in the mirror, I don't see nothing wrong with myself, but yet when people look at me, I know what's wrong, you know, and then I have to stop and realize that, you know, I am different. The big thing is the acceptance and to get other people to accept me. You know, I don't want to go through life, you know, the way I want people to accept me the way I am, not what they want me to be, because I can't do that. I have to be Susan Kilfillen the way I am. It's the purpose of my life the way I am, so, you know, I got to go on that way. I can't stop and say, well, I'll be like you want me to be. And Susan Kilfillen has scars, and she's burnt. But once a person gets to know me, they'll find that they won't be looking at my scars, but they'll be looking at my heart. So.
Susan Kilfillen is with us now. Now, bring us up to date. What's going on in your life now?
Well, in '86, I graduated from high school, which was a very big thing for me in my life because it was one of my top goals because where I missed so much time at school because of surgery and everything. And then after I graduated, I was able to get a job working in a mill, making rafters for houses, which I really loved because I really like working outdoors and, you know, being inside too. So I really did well there, and then I got laid off.
You're working just like in a lumber mill, regular lumber mill.
Yeah, lumber mill.
That sounds like pretty tough work.
Oh, it was, but I loved it. It was a big challenge for me. I liked working with my hands and everything, so I really enjoyed it.
So you got laid off from there, and now where are you working?
I'm working in a bake shop, believe it or not, after that, and I really enjoy it there, too, and I enjoy the people.
Do you have much contact with the customers?
Sometimes, but not very often, because I don't work at the front like I work at the back, but sometimes if I'm going out to, like we have to put cookies out and stuff, I'll say hi or something like that. So really, I don't have all that much contact.
Now, you've lived in this community for quite a long time. Do you still get the occasional stare from a customer?
Oh, yeah, it's normal, you know. And I understand why, too, because, like, even with me, if I see someone different, I take a second look. But now it don't bother me because it's just a normal part of my life, and I just go on and, just understand it.
You're 21 years old now. How many operations have you had over those 21 years? I've
had about 47 operations now, and I'm going to have quite a few more, too, in the next 2 or 3 years. So I go to Boston now, and they can do quite a bit for me yet, so it really makes me happy that I can get more done.
What are the doctors going to do?
Well, the next operation I'm going to have, they're going to work on my eyebrows more, and they're going to do more on my nose and some more on my lip, which takes, quite the healing process is quite a lot, it takes a long time.
Now, I understand that when you were in the hospital going through all of these operations as a young girl, that you really lost contact with your natural parents.
Yes, I did. They told me that my father used to call a lot, and then I don't know, he just stopped. It was very hard for them, too, and then, dealing with the way I was and everything. But it was quite a while, and then when I went to my foster home, they came and see me. But then it was a long way for them to travel and everything, so I, kind of understood after that, so.
Let me understand this. Your parents never came to visit you in the hospital at all?
I can only remember once that they came, but they might have been there, no one's told me, but they might have been there 3 or 4 other times. I don't, really remember.
Why didn't they accept you the way you were?
That I don't know yet, but I don't know, it's just that it was really hard for them. Like, I lost a sister, which was, it really affected them, and it really tore them apart, and I don't know, I just, but I still love my parents very much, and I just forget about the past, and, I go on to the future, and I told them not to blame themselves for what I've gone through, because there's a purpose.
Now, what's in the future for you?
Well, in the future, I'm going to, keep working, and then I would like to go to Bible school and become a missionary. And then I would like to go around to different hospitals and talk to people that has got burnt, just to let them know that I know what they're going through, and I do care, and that, things might look bad as it is now, but things will brighten up for them.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan. When we come back, we'll talk to 3 other people who suffered terrible burns, and we'll have their stories after this commercial message. We're joined now by 3 other people who had very, very serious burns. They formed a support group that meets once a month. And Paul Farrell, I'd like to start by asking you, how did you come to get such serious burns?
I was burned in a bucket working for the Power Corporation as a lineman 10 years ago.
So you had a surge of electricity, did you?
I didn't get the electrical. I had what they call flash burn. And like a ball of flash, picture an arc weld, say, 1,000 times greater than what you see a person welding. That hit me initially. And the heat, it just felt like a surmountable amount of heat. It just burned. And it just destroyed me from the top of my head to my waist. I could hear them hollering around, and the first thing I heard somebody said something about, well, we got to get him down. He's dead. And all I can remember, I won't elaborate on what I had said, but I said, I'm not dead yet. Get me down out of here. And by that time, I was burnt roughly 55% beyond third degree, and probably another 10% off and on with second and first.
I want to talk now to Sherry Wise. Sherry, your burns do not seem to be very apparent. How badly burnt were you?
I had about 40% of my body burnt, and most of it on the left side. Second and third degree burns. I was in a car accident. My sister and I were on our way to a friend's funeral, and we had stopped to pick up a friend. And when we were stopped, a cement truck hit the car from behind. And when it hit us, it dragged us about 20 feet up the road, but it dragged us up so that it ran us into a rock wall, and I was the passenger. So anyway, as he was dragging the car caught on fire, and the flames were shooting up through the center of the car. So when I was pulled across the flames, I received second and third degree burns.
Bob Boussard, you were involved in a car accident, a truck accident, similar to Sherry, where there was a gasoline explosion. Tell me about that.
Yes, it was. In June of 1983, I was in trucking, and I was in 5 o'clock in the morning on my way to Antigonish, and I lost the steering in my truck and sideswiped a tractor-trailer. As a result, the fuel tank ruptured and burst into flames. I was trapped in the truck. I couldn't get the doors open, the windows wouldn't roll down, and at the last minute I heard a funny noise, and I looked over and the window had cracked. I took another look at it, and I said, well, I gave one more kick and the whole side window fell out. So when I went out is when I got burnt. At that point, I had no real pain. I was uncomfortable in areas. Certain areas were uncomfortable. I remember standing on the side of the road waiting for the ambulance to come, and I could see skin hanging off my arms and my chest, my back, my legs. But those areas didn't hurt.
The pain is 10 days, about 10 days later. Then you wish that someone would either cut your head off or cut your legs off or stuff something in you and stop it, because I'll tell you, you could just picture yourself to hold on to something. You could just almost tear things out by the roots. It was excruciating. There's just I can't think of a word in English language that I could match the pain. All I know is they say there's nothing you're going to suffer any worse from. Is a burn.
I had a fantasy that, I'd be in the hospital for maybe 2 weeks at the most. I mean, I was telling my friends I'd be out ready to go tubing with them, and I just had no idea that I would be in the hospital. I thought they would patch me up and away I would go. I remember I was always asking the doctors, how long am I going to be here? And they'd always say, well, let's take one day at a time. And that's what you had to do.
How extensive are your body burns?
Well, my arm and my leg and my hand is the worst. And I lost a finger during the operation because it was burnt so bad. And they had to take skin from the right side of my body. So even though you can't really see, I have patches all over me where they've taken the skin, for the grafts.
I went through 4 skin grafts, and as Sherry was saying, they're the worst. That area when the donor site is, by the time they came the 4th time taking skin from the same place, it was getting pretty tender after that length of time. And the excruciating pain when they take the dressings off. I can remember just laying back there and just letting her go.
Used a few swear words, didn't you?
Oh, I used a few swear words, and I'll be honest, I used many tears. And then the emotional side took over, and I had an awful struggle. I ended up with fears of going for the next surgery, which was another skin grafting, and for no reason. I had no reason to know why I was afraid, but I was terrified.
How many separate operations have you had since the fire?
Counting grafting and all, I would say it's well over 100 and more. Counting the initial reconstruction, I had no plastic surgery. I had all reconstructive surgery. I don't know if Susan had any plastics yet or not. I haven't. Plastics is the use of an artificial piece of material, man-made, along with your own skin. You know.
Your eyes have quite a redness to them. Is that something that the doctors will be able to...
No, my eyes have been rebuilt roughly 8 times each. One, I think, 9. And the skin from my eyes came from the inside of my stomach. Or not inside, but the second layer. They cut it and roll back, and they rebuilt them about, I think, 8 in one and 9 in the other. And this will always be red. My tear ducts are all I have left. It was initially 10 days or more before I could see. They didn't know whether I'd ever see. They said the likelihood I'd be blind was very possible because of the extent of the burn. But after they opened my eye, I can remember them cutting my eyes open. What I saw was not what it was a blur. I made colors, but I knew it was my wife's skin on the end of that bed. And thank God for that.
Now, Susan, you didn't have a support group like this. You lost the support of your parents. Would it have made a big difference to you to have had a group like this?
Yes, it probably would have, because it seemed like a lot of times that I was all alone, and, you know, people didn't really understand what I was going through, and I don't know, it's just that, you know, you try to explain to them, but really when you talk to someone that hasn't gone through it, they can't really visualize it, or they can't really feel it, and it, you know, you just get, sometimes you get frustrated, but the way I did, I just kind of just stride on and tried to do the best I could.
Yeah. And you just have to realize life is worth living, and if you want to enjoy it, you don't worry about what people say, although sometimes it's a little harder to do, you know, because you do worry about what people say sometimes. But you can't dwell on it, that's for sure.
What sort of things would people say to you?
Oh, well, I remember I had a doctor's appointment one day, and I was standing at the elevator, and this gentleman gets off, and he goes, oh, he goes, did you just get beamed down from outer space? You know, things like that. And usually it didn't really bother me because I knew that they meant well, but they just didn't know what to say.
Susan, I know that you still feel a little anxiety when you go out in public to go shopping, something like that. Tell me, what kind of reaction do you get from people who don't know you?
I just carry on. Sometimes you'll be walking somewhere and someone will say, well, look at that. And I won't say a word. I'll just keep walking. Or what I'm scared is little kids, because you never know what little kids are going to come out with, and it's really something that's really comical. And sometimes when I'm around little kids, I'm really edgy, and sometimes, but you know, when they ask, I try to explain them the best I can what has happened and stuff, and then they say, well, okay, and they go on.
What are some of the things they say to you?
I don't know. They say what happened to you and stuff like this. Do you have a mask on, or is it, you know, really you, and stuff like that. So it's in a way you think it's cruel, but yet you got to stop and, you know, think, well, they're little, they don't understand, and no one has told them. So this is the way that I feel that the group is really wonderful, because even with grown-ups, maybe they can stop and realize that when they meet someone like us, they'll stop and really think before they ask.
Do you ever hesitate to go out in public, to go shopping, because you don't want to get stared at?
Yes, I do sometimes when I go shopping. Well, I don't like shopping anyway, but if I go out in public, I notice myself over the years, I notice that I'll be looking down. I won't look at people. But lately I've been trying to look at people, you know, as I go in to, most of the time now I'll look at them and they'll look at me and I'll smile. But I had a friend tell me, you know, you shouldn't do that. You should look right up and feel proud because you've gone through a lot, and you know, the way you look at it is, you must be special, or else they wouldn't take their second look.
But you'll find, and I find, a very eye contact is the biggest part of the breeding. No matter what it said to you, if somebody's going to stare at you, sit there and you look at them. And generally a smile will wipe away any inquisitiveness, and it's so great that they want to ask the question they will. Then I say, you know, the ball's in my park.
I look at you and Sherry, and you seem like very well-adjusted people to me, not the kind of people who would sort of need a support group. Is the main reason that you go through periods of depression, of real extreme depression?
Well, I did. And I think majority of the people have periods of depression through a burn. I mean, you get the feeling, why me, for one. You've got to finally get over that one. And then, you look at yourself, your body image is destroyed. And this varies with age group and sex and everything else. You know, at one time I thought the women were the only ones that had the problem with this image, this body image. I found out since that this is not true. Men at the younger age group have maybe even a bigger hang-up with this body image stuff than the women, because all of a sudden they can't go on the beach with their shorts, you know. And it's a real downer for them. It really is a downer.
Sherry, I wanted to ask you, did you ever go through periods of depression along the same lines as that we were just talking with Bob about?
Not really, but there were times where all of a sudden I would start crying, and I wasn't sure why. I just started crying and crying. I couldn't stop. And at that point, I needed somebody to understand, you know, or just to talk to let them know what I was going through. And at that time, a support group would have come in handy.
Well, the way I look at it, too, is that our hindsight can now be someone's foresight.
That's right.
I mean, you've experienced it, you've lived it, and it's worth it. You know, if I sit and brood and feel bad about what's happened and think about 100 things that's bad and I feel bad, I'm going to be the worst person you ever want to meet. But, well, I have nothing to feel bad about it. I feel good inside, so why shouldn't I feel good outside?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you all for coming in and talking about your experiences, and I wish you the best of luck with your support group. When we return, we'll have a look at next week's show. We'd like to hear some of your reaction to tonight's program. You can write to us at CBC Inquiry. Our address is Box 3000 in Halifax. The postal code is B3J3E9. Or you can call us.
Thank you, Bruce. The first skin bank east of Alberta opened today at the Victoria General Hospital in Halifax. The bank will be able to store skin for severe burn victims, which should ease suffering and possibly save some lives. Greg Dennis reports.
I sincerely thank you.
Nova Scotia firefighters raised $55,000 for the purchase of this skin bank, unique in eastern Canada. Through liquid nitrogen refrigeration, staff at the Victoria General Hospital will be able to store donated skin for the application of temporary grafts on severe burn victims.
And obviously somebody who has an 80% burn is in a very life-threatening situation. And one of the problems in the past has been that they don't have any donor sites of their own, on their own body.
In those situations, we really have very few alternatives. Skin bank provides a readily available source of skin that will serve to cover that wound.
Paul Farrell suffered major burns to 70% of his body in an industrial accident 11 years ago. Doctors gave him little chance of living. A lot of badly burned people don't live, but more will survive because of the skin bank.
It will minimize infection, and infection is one of the biggest things with burns. And with infection, you get a rejection. When you get rejection, you get withdrawals. I mean, you get farther behind.
With the unit now in place, VG staff is impressing upon the public the importance of donating skin.
Skin is an organ, and it protects us from infection and from water loss and dehydration.
In Halifax, Greg Dennis, ATV News.
Someone who has been badly burned, the skin is the natural bandage. Today, the first skin bank in Atlantic Canada opened in Halifax as part of Victoria General Hospital's burn unit. The story from Andra Stevens.
Organizers of the bank showed off their first batch of donated skin, packed in liquid nitrogen and waiting for use. They were also asking for more donations.
We're hoping, obviously, to make people aware of the fact that the skin is another organ that they can donate. The skin is the largest organ of the body, and most people tend not to think of it that way, but in fact it is.
The Victoria General's burn unit gets about 60 cases each year. Half of them involve extensive and severe burns. In the past, doctors had to take the patient's undamaged skin and use it on the burned areas to help prevent infection and to help the burns to heal. When most of the patient's body is burned, it's a slow and painful process. Paul Farrell is a former patient. More than 50% of his body was severely burned.
It's a gift that you can give that from passing on, which would help others tremendously. You know, it's from experience. I had so many rejections because of that. I didn't have anything.
Only a patient's own skin can be used for a permanent graft, but the skin stored in the bank can be used early in treatment as a temporary covering. Skin can be donated up to 24 hours after death and stored for 6 to 8 months.
It's ultimately going to end up with less pain, less suffering, and a much quicker recovery rate, I do believe.
The money for the skin bank was donated by the Nova Scotia Firefighters Burn Treatment Society. Most of the $55,000 came from one event, a bowl-a-thon. The VG expects to supply skin to other hospitals in the region for severe burn cases. Andrew Stevens, CBC News, Halifax.